would start because my upbringing was a bit shorter in term than Artem's, because I moved from Russia when I was just 12 years old. So my real upbringing, probably as a person, was as a mature person, was happening here in Prague.
Mhm.
But still, I can feel that my custom build as a personality still happened in those 12 years while I was still in Russia, mainly due to the fact that I was exposed to a lot of TV and media that shaped me, and it shapes you a lot when you're a kid because it makes the most impression on you while you're in this uh, age of flexible mind, basically. So yeah, I grew up there in a usual normal working family, and then my family emigrated and opened a business here. So we moved away. So basically, all of my music interests started here in Prague. I started to play guitar. I encountered Artem. I had my other metal band or whatever. So I was shaped probably in terms of music tastes and other tastes in Russia, but all of the beginnings happened in Prague. So yeah, that's in a nutshell basically what it is.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So you said you were in a metal band before, so you basically, started listening to metal rock music and transitioned into techno, right?
Yeah. I mean, it all comes from my dad, basically, because he's a huge um, metal fan. So I was at 1 or 2 years old already listening to Slayer and Megadeth
Mm.
uh, and all of the other good stuff in a huge headphones. Yeah, I was abroad with that music in my ears, so I had no other choice other than to create a metal band. But also, it was an era of I would say when it was at the peak. From in the 90s, it was like all about thrash metal and Metallica. Making it mainstream a bit. Then it moved on to new metal with Korn and Slipknot and Limp Bizkit,
Yep.
introduction of rap, uh, big beats, all the stuff like this more aggressive stuff was very much a theme back in the day. So that's why we like things a bit more aggressive in any music or when it's driving or pumping, and techno is just one of those genres. It's a very aggressive and it's dark and it really drives you when you listen to it. So
Yeah, I
it's
feel
a
you.
different. I think it's an electronic replica of metal, basically in
Mm.
an electronic world. People are almost similar. The audience, when you look at them,
Yeah.
is very much looks the same as the ones who listened to the metal back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting, man. What about Nikki?
Artem.
Oh, sorry, Artem
Yeah,
Nikki.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
it's fine,
it's
Julian.
fun. Like my situation is completely different since I moved to Prague when I was 18 already. So I finished the school, but before that I finished musical school. So I actually started playing guitar like in 1998 or something like that. So I started my musical career like when I was 7 years old. Yeah, and life in Kemerovo in Siberia, it's some crazy experience, man. So it's industrial city, and the main thing is mining coal. You know, so many mines, like the environment is not really good, this kind of stuff, and it's pretty cold. So yeah, when I moved to Prague, for me, I moved to continue my education. So I was planning to start university, etc., etc. And for me, it was completely different world. You know, Prague. This, even if it's Eastern Europe, it's still Europe. It's something else, something different. You know. And the first year, I was living in the dormitory and speaking to people of all nationalities. And actually, you know, when I came back and speaking to my old friends, you know, completely two different world. And during those times, my perception of the world was changing a lot. And for example, I used to be a metalhead as well. So I'm still, of course, to some extent, but I had a band, you know. But then when I moved to Prague, I started, you know, listening to some electronic music. It was Justice, if you know some. It was
Justice.
it was new Justice, yeah, this French electro house band,
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah,
It was the era. It was the era of new rave, new rave music. So bands like Soul Walks, Justice, then Sebastian, Busy P, then Hadouken, like all this hipster stuff was super famous. And you know, yesterday I was in school, like wearing my, I don't know, T-shirt from New Yorker, but the next moment I'm like wearing the sunglasses
from New Yorker as well.
From New Yorker as well, yeah. this really super skinny jeans, and like all this colorful T-shirts, and you know, this leather jacket, completely different man. And I was really into this kind of stuff. It wasn't really big in Czech, because Czech is more rock country, right? But this is, I suppose this is a start point when I started like listening to electronic music. And you know, sometimes people, when they evolve, they listen to some harsh shit and then they move to complete pop. In my case, it was totally opposite. I started with some like really soft. Now I understand that it's soft, but those times, Sebastian and this electro sounds, fresh sound, I thought it's like really techno shit, like, you know, really hard. In couple years, even Alan Fitzpatrick, you know, this in the beginning song, I thought it's like it's really some weird house.
Yeah. It was the first techno song I've ever heard that actually just, it was wow. I never thought this world exists. You know, it's completely different. Sounded completely different to everything I heard.
So this actually, two complete world, man. In Russia, it's not like, probably in Moscow, in St. Petersburg, it is, yes. But in some cities like Kemerovo, it doesn't exist even. And it's uncomparable thing. So it's you're actually opening the new world. And I think it's not only case of mine, it's the case for many friends of mine that came from different cities, but they all of them had an opportunity to somehow, you know, to evolve in Prague and to start doing something creative, you know.
Yeah, and I think it's due to the fact that the best people immigrate from Russia, and a lot of those best people have accumulated in Prague. And so we have now, thanks to my friends, we have, you know, I have the most forward-thinking friends, I think, ever. Everybody is super hip. Everybody knows, you know, about movies, books, philosophy, politics, everything, because the best people live here. So, and you are able to talk to them. So it's like a let's say, concentration camp
for smart people.
Yeah. It's our hood of Russian intelligence. So that's why we were able to grow much faster than we would in Russia as well.
Yeah, I would just add that in Russia, unfortunately, now it's I'm not saying it's not possible to grow, but you know, the environment is so hard. You have to survive, really, in terms of everything. So I'm not saying that there are no like talented people or clever people or whatever people. No, it's just like, unfortunately, the current conditions are not people friendly, like evolving friendly or development friendly or whatever. Like it's really hard. If like we were lucky, we actually were lucky that we are here and we have the opportunity to evolve and to grow.
Yeah, understand, man. Like it must have been like quite a cultural shift for you guys, like you were saying, that you really, profited from. I don't know the cities, Chelyabinsk and Kemerovo. Um, but I can understand, up to a certain point that those are probably cities that are way more isolated, from the rest of the world. And also, you guys said you came to Europe when, how old were you guys?
He was 12 and I was 17.
So how old would, like, in which years would that have been?
It was, for me, it was year 2005.
And for me, 2008.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, post-Soviet Union era, but you could probably, well, it is, not directly. That would have been more in the 90s, but you can probably up to this day still, notice some flaws that the society has due to the Soviet Union, right? And obviously, some people probably don't have the opportunities that you might encounter in Europe and stuff like that.
That's true. Though I have to say one remark, that I think the years 2000, beginning of 2000 was the most freedom I think the Russia probably saw in terms of,
man, I agree.
yeah, ever. And this was the peak of, peak of creativity. People were living vividly. It was also a peak of the money that were coming in thanks to the rising oil prices. So there were a lot of money, there was a lot of freedom,
and there was a hope.
Yeah, there was hope that all those money will help to build a fantastic country, which we see now.
Yep.
It's not happening, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But back in the day, those were happy days actually for us. Even though we both come from industrial cities, very polluted. A lot of criminal shit happens. Yeah, guys were taking the phones from me, for example, from my friends, robbing us for money. But it was nothing compared to the, happy memories that we have still to this day. Probably any kid almost has a happy memory of the age of 10, between, I don't know, 8 to 12. It's a happy time for you. So it didn't matter that much. Exactly. It didn't matter that much that it was a post-Soviet.
But even like if those memories are kid memories, there was a progress and there was a hope.
True.
Even now, I can say that it's still valid. There was the growth, but something happened. I don't want really go into the political thing because it's a topic for another conversation. But it just didn't work out, unfortunately, and it's getting worse now.